What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. This is United versus everybody. I am your host, Sean, and we are back with a bonus Man United News Roundup this morning. There's enough news for me to want to jump in and get your thoughts on everything amidst all the international football monotony. So thank you for stopping by, you guys. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your week, wherever you might be. Danny B, good morning, my friend. Hope you are doing well. As we dive into the week, obviously it's Tuesday. It doesn't feel like Tuesday, though, does it? I don't know about you guys. It does not feel like Tuesday to me, but we are going to discuss a little bit of United news. We got some transfer news to look at, some interesting news regarding players who I guess you could maybe technically are United players, but maybe not. Maybe they're just not in your guys' mind, like for me. But we're going to talk about that. So let's dive right in. First and foremost, though, big up the under 13s. They finished their Premier League Cup North yesterday. They ended up lifting that cup yesterday. So big up the U13s. Well done, kids. As you guys saw the little picture in the thumbnail in the dressing room, taking a photo, celebrating. You know, the academy is just rocking it, man. I'm so proud. Couldn't be more proud of the women's team, of the academy, the under 21s, the under 18s, and now the under 13s. Like they're all just doing it, man, and I'm so happy to see it. Now, if only the first team could take a little page out of that book. But in any case, big up the U13s winning the Premier League Cup North yesterday. So hit the like button, y'all, if you're buzzing for the under 13s. Hit that subscribe button if you guys want to help us on our road to 3K subscribers, and check the memberships. You guys want to learn more about how you can get more involved in the channel, such as content, scouting reports, or even jumping on some videos in the future. Like what Dylan's been doing this past week, you know, that could be one of you guys. So keep that in mind. So moving on to some big news. So if you guys saw my post yesterday, I'm sure you guys did. We got some potential big news, spoiler alert, regarding Amad Diallo and his potential return to fitness. He posted, I think it was on Snapchat. I don't really know. I didn't think Snapchat was a thing, but apparently it still is a thing. But he popped this up on Snapchat. If you guys saw it on the channel's post page, little hourglass sign, little happiness. Now we know that we saw that rumor last week that he could feature before the end of the season. I think Amorim dropped a little hint in one of the press conferences. And so it would be such a boost, I think, for us. Now, I can't remember exactly what the deal was with Ahmad, what his injury. I know he had some knee issues last season, which is why we didn't see him until later on in the season. I know a lot of people thought that Ten Hag just didn't want to play him. Like, he was injured, so it is what it is. So hopefully it's not a recurring issue. Hopefully he's not going down the Shaw or Mount Phil Jones route. Hopefully it's just a little one-off thing, but hopefully we'll get that. I mean, on Ahmad, though, I mean, we did talk a little bit about that the other day. I posted that poll yesterday on the channel too, asking what you all think Ahmad's best position is in the squad. Is he one of the 10s? Do you see him more as the right wingback / that right midfield? The majority of you think he's better in that right wingback, right midfield role. Again, that role in Amorim's system, it's not exactly like defensive, but you do need to have energy. You do need to have that mentality. You do need to have stamina. You need to have a little bit of fight and work rate. So, and I think Ahmad's got all those things. So it's interesting. But that's why it's difficult to plan a transfer window. I went back and forth on so many positions in my summer rebuild because I was not sure where Bruno's better position was going to be moving forward. Wasn't sure where Ahmad's best position was moving forward. You know, in my summer rebuild, I had him as a 10 just simply because that's where we saw him in these last couple matches before he picked up his injury. And as a result of that, that's why I opted for Jeremy Frimpong for like 40 million. If I put Ahmad in a right wing back role, though, if that's where we're going to go, then I probably would have not gone for Frimpong. Would have had Ahmad, Kamasan, and then like Mizraoui kind of filling in. But then I would have gone for like a 10, like a Cherki or something, someone who is more first team ready. Decisions, though, right? It's just all depending. You know, it's really not up to us even. It's about what Ruben Amorim says. So Danny says right wing back all day. Again, it could go either way. It's so hard. You guys know how many times I went back and forth between Hayden Hackney, Arden Yashari, and Ederson. And even now, I still go back and forth every time I look at something. So This is why I don't envy directors of football. I think I could be a better director of football than what we've seen at United, but it's a hard decision because you kind of take as much information as you can, get enough input as you can, and then you make a decision, and then you try to back that decision. Where does the line go between, okay, this isn't working out, and we need to cut ties and move on? Where does the It's so hard. There are so many intangibles too that you can't measure. That's something that I want to do moving forward. I'm looking into a lot of different assessments and things, and for the mental side of things. You can measure speed, you can measure heart rate, you can measure muscle mass, all that stuff, oxygen intake, all those kind of things you can measure. But how do you measure resilience? How do you measure motivation? How do you measure like cohesion in a team and things like that? How do you measure those kind of things? Well, as a psychologist, I can tell you some of that is just self-report, but there are assessments for that. And that's one of the things I've been looking a lot into resilience assessments and things, and trying to find what I would love to do in the future is find a way to incorporate those assessments and self-report into the scouting process, into the academy process. So youngsters, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 year olds can start developing that emotional awareness, developing that self-awareness of resilience, of their own mentality, of their own motivation and thought processes. So by the time they get to the first team, they maybe are a little bit ahead of the curve, not only for their age group, but just in terms of just being young men. Just a little sneak peek of what I'm trying to look for in my professional career, because you guys are interested, right? Danny on the under 13s, yeah, says Ness. And I only found out about JJ Gabriel kid last week. Yeah, he's been popping up here and there. I know, what is he, 14, 15? Very, 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 very highly rated young prodigy in the academy. Some talks that maybe he might be leaving. Hopefully, we can keep him around. Maybe eye him for a fast track into like the U18s or something moving forward. But he is getting a lot of attention this season. I think I just saw someone it might have been AJ Analysis just did a video on JJ Gabriel either yesterday or today. I can't remember. It could have been Housen. Housen's been doing a lot of the one-off videos during this international break. He's been talking a lot about rebuilds and stadiums and stuff. Go check out some of Housen's recent content. It's actually really, really good. I got nothing but time for Steve Housen, man. That guy's experience just growing up with United. Obviously, he's coaching his own club as well as managing that. Like, nothing but time for Steve. I defer to his judgment in terms of tactics and things, because that's something I'm probably a little more than most, but far, far less than a lot when it comes to the tactical side of things. But big up, Danny. Yeah, JJ Gabriel. Obviously, it's difficult to watch the youngsters unless they're in the under 18s or the under 21 level. But yeah, he's drawing a lot of attention. David says, Embuemo, Cunha, and Bruno in the 10, I would love. Yeah, I'm starting to move more towards this Bruno in the pivot thing, simply just because we don't have another playmaker in that deep role, which is why I looked at Yashari, because Yashari is that. But who knows, man? We might look a little bit at that today as well. So a little sneak peek. Then he says midfield pivot selection: Ugarte, Yashari, Manu, Collier, Bruno. Yeah, you notice no Casemiro in there, which is maybe a precursor to what we're going to be talking about here shortly. Danny says, I heard he has an Irish passport. Is that just wishful thinking, or is that legit? Let me know. Housen. Yeah. RSV, welcome back, man. Hopefully you're doing well, enjoying the sunshine today. RSV does not live that far from me. Bruno can provide great progressive passes from deep, especially against low blocks. Yeah, the problem is against low blocks, it's hard to play those progressive passes because the low block doesn't leave a whole lot of room in behind. So what I'd love to see is a little more incisive passing and not just long balls from Bruno. Let's keep the ball on the ground. Let's try to break the lines a little bit. We've seen that in the past. He can do that. He has that in his locker. We don't keep the ball on the ground enough in many cases. And if we're going to play long over the top, then we need to do it quicker instead of sitting on the ball in our own box when we collect a cross or something. We need to get that ball going, find the runners before the defenders can get back into their shape. But I know I like big up RSV. Good to see you again. David says, Housen done a great 4-part series on the rebuild. Yeah, a lot of what he's been saying is a lot of what we've been talking about, how to use feeder clubs, what kind of features to incorporate into the stadium and whatnot. A lot of it is what we're saying. It's really cool to see him kind of flesh that out over a whole series. But yeah, big ups to obviously been doing his thing for a long time, very well versed in the DNA of United and whatnot. So yeah, I got time for Steve, man. RSV says, but playing Bruno deep wouldn't work against the top teams. I mean, it has It has worked. It just depends. A lot of it's going to depend on fitness. A lot of it's going to depend on how we're trying to set up, and then some of it might depend on the opposition. It really just depends. He's done a fine job. The problem with Bruno is you play him higher up in the 10, you lose some of that defensive work rate, or he's dropping too deep sometimes to pick up the ball because we don't have anyone else who can do that. You drop him deep, and you're going to get a little bit more of that off the ball work rate. His duels, his tackles, and stuff are actually pretty good, but you do lose some of that chance creation with him. So he's not the box to box in terms of he's going to be physical enough to do that. And he runs around a lot in that sense, and he does a lot of work, but you do lose a little too much when he does one or the other. So we need some better quality and depth in that regard. And he says we can always move Bruno to an 8 depending on opposition. Yeah, and some of it will depend, like I was saying, on the opposition. Kluivert wouldn't be a bad shot. I loved Kluivert when he was at Ajax, and then he went to like Leicester or something, didn't do great. I think he went to Roma as well, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. But obviously he's having a really good season at Bournemouth. Justin and I, when we were in Manchester, we were killing a little bit of time before we went to the Salford game. And so we were downtown and just jumped into a pub real quick, and they had the Newcastle Bournemouth game on TV. And there were a ton of Newcastle. There were a lot of Newcastle jerseys, some of the old school ones too. So we didn't get too hyped, but yeah, he's having a banger of a season. Obviously, Iriola, he's obviously they're regressing a little bit to the mean right now, but Iriola's having a really good season. Nuno has probably got to be in a shot. If Forrest finishing in top 4 or anywhere in Europe for that matter, Nuno's got to be in with a shout for manager of the season, right? I mean, everyone's going to give it to Arne Slot, but yeah, I'd still give it to Nuno or Iriola. Iriola's in with an outside shout. Then is if we couldn't get Mbeumo or Cunha, I prefer Kluivert over for Semenyo. Yeah, Semenyo's got a little bit of injury history issues. And like you're saying, his finishing is not great. Justin, big up. Yeah, you remember that match? That was legit. We were afraid to kind of celebrate too many goals because there were probably good 4 or 5 Newcastle shirts in and around the vicinity, and you never know what's going to happen. A couple of Americans. I mean, it'd be bad enough when we open our mouths and they heard an accent. Apparently, Justin, Michiganders have accents. I don't know this, but I don't hear it. But still a great pub and a great game. That was a pretty cool pub. I like that area. When we go back, I want to spend more time now. We kind of stumbled around that night too and found the like the Chinatown of Manchester, which was pretty legit. We went to this kick-ass market. Saw some. There's a whole wall of ramen. Justin and I are ramen fiends, man, and like fancy ramen. Like I can't read anything on the label. I just see a cartoon with fire, and I'm like, give me that package of ramen right now. Let's throw some pork belly in there. Throw some edamame in there. Let's throw some kimchi on top. I am all about the upset stomach afterward. If it's not upset in my stomach, it hasn't been good ramen. Justin says I have no accent. I guarantee you, Justin, if you go down south, you were down south. Nobody said you had an accent. We have accents in the Midwest. We have Midwestern accents, for sure. So moving on though, now that I'm caught up with the chats, hope everyone's doing well today. It's been a fun morning. I got shit to do today. I got a lot of errands to run, but moving on to some big news regarding Jadon Sancho. I know. We're tired of we all rather sit and laugh at Sancho than this, but he apparently, according to German outlet Bild, has submitted a transfer request to his management team to move to Borussia Dortmund again. So apparently, reportedly, according to Bild, Sancho has submitted a transfer request and wants to go back to Dortmund. That is a little bit ridiculous. If this is true, and you notice whenever these transfer rumors pop up or whatever, I have to preface it with if it's true. I'm not going to go get too gassed up like a lot of other outlets and a lot of other channels do. I don't like to operate under the assumption that these things are true, but let's say hypothetically it's true. Like, how ridiculous is this transfer situation? I mean, it didn't take long for many of us to see that the Premier League was just a little too much for Jadon Sancho, whether that was the physicality of the league itself, whether it was the pressure of playing at United. I don't know. Maybe it's not I mean, there's no pressure at Chelsea, so maybe that has more to do with it. But either way, he's never come close to replicating his Dortmund form. And honestly, it doesn't look great for us because it's just been yet another transfer fail in the long list of transfer fails at United. I mean, you saw that list yesterday when Dylan and I popped on 60 some odd players we've signed in the last 12 years. not many of them are good. I mean, Dylan and I went through 5 of our best signings, and the fact that I've got Mizraoui in my top 5 is telling. Really, it's damning if we want to say it bad. But go check out that stream if you haven't yet done so. It's pretty legit. But apparently, I mean, going from Dortmund to United to Dortmund on loan to Chelsea and now potentially back to Dortmund. I mean, this is like it was like he saw Pogba's transfer history and was like, hold my beer, I got this. Or here, hold my PlayStation controller, I got this. That's like leaving the kitchen, going through the front yard, and then through the bathroom. The bathroom is Chelsea in this analogy, just to get back into the kitchen. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. How long does it take for you to realize, all right, I can't hang in this league? Then he says the Boston accent is horrible. Interesting. Yeah, I've been to Boston once, but I wasn't in Boston. I flew into Boston, then went to Falmouth for a long weekend. Checked out the vineyard. The vineyard was all right. Martha's Vineyard reminded me a lot of Mackinac Island. It was very touristy. But Falmouth was legit. Did a bit of fishing off the beach and whatnot. But big up everyone. But what are your thoughts on the Sancho deal? Like, this is insane, man. I can't believe that, dude. But what I mean, we haven't seen anything from Sancho in a while, on or off the pitch. No more social media stuff. Not seeing a whole lot of output on the pitch. I mean, to his credit, he plays and he's just not good. I mean, and Chelsea honestly are struggling to get their wide players kind of involved. Neto's not really doing that well. Obviously, Mudrik's got his own issues. Madueke, maybe it's a Maresca thing. I don't know, but you won't hear anything about it in the news, though, because no one fucking cares about Chelsea. But it is what it is. Um, Danny says the Sancho thing is embarrassing. It's it, I it's embarrassing for him. You have to think he's a little embarrassed. I mean, footballers don't like, not doing well when they make it's a big money move. He's on big wages. He was talking all this good stuff to Ten Hag. He was talking all this good stuff online to Rashford and whatnot. And I told you guys as soon as he left and went to Chelsea, I knew it's not going to take long. Wait until he starts struggling. Wait till he can't handle it. Wait till he finds some other person or some other reason to blame for why he's not performing well. And it's just, I mean, I don't want to think the worst of people. All I can do with Sancho is go on what I've seen even before his time at United. He was doing this kind of stuff at Dortmund as well. Like, his attitude is just not there, man. He needs to grow up a bit. The guy's 24, 25 now. He's got to grow up, dude. But it is what it is. I just thought that was a little bit of interesting news. I saw that this morning and it was like, well, I can talk about that for a bit. Moving on to a bit of transfer news. This is coming from Caught Offside. They claim that United are set for a 10-man clear out this summer. Like, a lot of clear. Who would be 10 players at United that you think realistically, I'm not just players that you like, get them out of here, but realistically, who do you see leaving when we think about that? So Eriksen's leaving. Lindelof is leaving, right? Who else? Maybe Bayindir. I think Bayindir's probably getting out of here. I don't even know who else off the top of my head now. That's only 3. I'm not very good at this. Yeah, I can't think of any else. Who you guys let me know. Evans is another one. Yeah, I don't know. But one position, according to some other outlets, that we could be set to refresh this summer is goalkeeper. Now, we've been linked to a few goalkeepers this year, as of course it's going to happen when players struggling, and Andre Onana is struggling. But like any signing, I gave him a chance. But there's just so much lacking when it comes to his mentality and some of the basics of just goalkeeping that I just haven't seen from Onana in the 2+ years he's been here. I thought I read somewhere the other day that Saudi clubs were interested in him. And now that I think about it, though, I think that probably had more to do with him changing his agent. I think his new agent has worked with clients who have gone to the Saudi league, so I think people are putting 2 and 2 and getting 5 from that. But I think I saw too. Someone, I want to say it was Graham Bailey, claimed that there was interest from Saudi clubs. We will see, but I don't know. If, like I said before, if a Saudi club wants him, that's probably the only thing I can see him doing is going to the Saudi league, bite their hand off and run, and either we take a punt on Bayindir or VTech, or we strengthen. I did in my summer rebuild. I brought in Joan Garcia from Espanyol. He was literally release clause of like 21 million pounds. Pay like 23, 24, get it over the line. You can amortize that over a 4-year, 5-year contract, and you're set for a while. But Danny says Onana, Casemiro, Dallo, Shaw, maybe Slab. Yeah. Problem is if we lose Evans, Lindelof, and Maguire, we've got Heaven, we've got Delit, Mazraoui, Euro. That's 4. Licha is going to be injured for a minute. Yeah, I mean, there are players. We've been linked to a lot of youngsters. In my summer rebuild, I said go get Olivier Bachali for free. I think that would be an excellent bit of business. But who knows, man? But Onana could be due. I mean, again, this is what's going to happen when you have a lot of high-profile errors. Obviously, that Ipswich match was a fucking shambles from the get-go. I've seen some people blame Dorgu, some people blame Onana. Whoever it is, they're both at fault. They both share responsibility. But it's not the first time we've seen something like that from Onana, some sort of just high-profile, just silly error, and that's why I lean more towards Onana. It's a history of these repeated offenses. But we've also, because of this, we've been linked to a lot of players. Like I said, we were actually linked to Joan Garcia last month. Royal Antwerp's keeper, Sene Lamens, Lucas Chevalier recently, although those are pretty tentative links. They're all quality, though. They're all long-term options. I think that they're the kind of keepers like De Gea who can kind of develop in a rebuild. Ekrem Koner, the journalist we spoke about a couple times, has reiterated that we are interested in Sene Lamens, Antwerp. No problem with that. Chevalier links were from the Sun, so again, tentative links at best. Who do you guys like for goalkeeper? If you brought in a goalkeeper right now, who would you guys go and get? Danny says Bashali and another young center back in doesn't seem to be linked to Bashali. Yeah, I haven't seen any links to Bashali. We've linked to that Fenerbahce defender. We were linked to a lot of young defenders, but we need someone to come in for Licha on that left-hand side who can rotate in and out with like Aiden Heaven or something. But we'll see. But in terms of keepers, who would you guys bring in if we got rid of Onana? Would you guys try to convince Vitek to stay? I don't think Vitek's going to stay, unfortunately. There are a lot of keepers out there, though. Maybe Eli Harrison, Dermot Mee could be promoted to the backup. Heaton, I think, is probably going to retire. Bayindir is heavily linked to want to leave, maybe return to Turkey. I think with Vitek, we're probably going to see him go the Kovar route, where I think he thinks he's better than a backup. He's probably first team ready. I don't know if he's first team ready for like a huge club, but he's definitely first team ready for a club like a Salzburg or like even a Leipzig, maybe something like that. I think he wants to play. But we'll probably look at that as profit too in terms of VTech, same way we did for Kovar. We'll probably throw in a sell-on clause in the future. So Danny says, give VTech a chance, or Garcia or Chevalier. Chevalier is probably going to be the more expensive of options. Lamens looks okay, like Danny says. I haven't seen enough of him. I do like Joan Garcia, though. Obviously, we did that little scout report on him a couple weeks back. But he's very good as well. There are a couple. Bilbao's keeper, or Gurizabalaga, is another one that is pretty decent. I always struggle with his name. Obviously, it's a rough name, but sounds like I just threw up all over the place. But yeah, you guys get involved in the chat. Let me know what kind of keepers you guys are looking at if we got rid of Onana, if he went to the Saudi League. He was a big money signing, and that was a big move from Ten Hag to bring in Andre Onana. And he obviously didn't do it right away, but it was interesting. Obviously, De Gea, there was all that contract shambles with De Gea back and forth. We put the offer on the table. We took back the offer. De Gea finished the season with the Golden Glove, all that stuff. And then we ended up bringing in Onana for a pretty hefty fee. It was, like 50-something million? So hasn't quite worked out, unfortunately, for Onana. The Champions League, I mean, you can't put it any way. He is the reason we went out in the Champions League in the group stage last year. It's just too many errors, not great. He's made a bunch of errors this season. Just the Forest match kills me. That random, was that Gibbs White just shooting from randomly and it just scuttles underneath Onana, like he's just sitting on his ass as it goes by. Like that's stuff like that happens way too frequently with Onana. Mark Critchley put out a piece yesterday or today on Onana too, and just the shift we've seen going from long balls from the building out from the back. I think Mark Critchley's whole angle is that maybe Amorim doesn't trust Onana a whole lot to play out from the back, which is really interesting angle to look at it because that's the reason that Onana was brought in, right? The building out from the back. He's good with the ball at his feet. A lot of people think it's just distribution. His distribution is crap. It just is. It's garbage. But he's really comfortable on the ball. We've seen him Cruyff turn people in his own box when he's pressed, and he's done it just fine. That's pretty much the only thing I've seen from Onana that has been impressive this season. But moving on, in another potential exit rumor on Danny's Casemiro inclusion, this is coming from Photomac. This reports that Galatasaray have not given up on their pursuit of Casemiro. Could be interesting. I don't think Casemiro is... This is hard because Casemiro has obviously come out and publicly said, he wants to see out his contract at United. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has not been shy about his feelings about not about Casemiro as the player, but I think the transfer itself. He's mentioned in a couple different interviews now. He's kind of name dropped that that Casemiro transfer is something he's not a fan of. Galatasaray, I think, could be an excellent move for him. I think they're still in Europe. They're actually not half bad. The source, though, Photomat, claims that Casemiro would like to stay in Europe. So I think, there's options there. But reportedly, he's got clubs in South America that are looking at him, too, as well. So maybe he can go back to, Flamenco. He can go to Flamenco or something and hang out. Or Boca. Just join the rest of the former United players and go into Boca. You do just fine there. You can go hang out with Cavani and Rojo and Herrera and Sergio Romero and just hang out. But I think Galatasaray could be a solid move for Casemiro, but you guys let me know. I think, again, he's another one of those players who wasn't really in the first team picture under Amorim until we started picking up these injuries. Ugarte had to miss a couple weeks. Obviously, Kabi Mainoo was out. Collier was out for a minute, and then Casemiro got put in. And then as we started seeing a little deeper and hitting teams on the break, Casemiro looked a lot better. He played pretty much every match, and he's not looked bad. But again, if there's an opportunity to get him off the books and get a little bit of a transfer fee for him, I think you have to take it. I think you just have to. So I'm sure a lot of you agree. But moving on to something. So obviously yesterday we saw the return of the questions from a boot. I know you guys like questions from a boot. The couple of them yesterday were just, I must have been watching like an Arsenal match or something, or maybe I was watching Rio's channel and listening to Joel Bea bang on about Arsenal. But those ones yesterday, again, they're totally random. I pulled them from the boot, but they're all about Arsenal. So that was fun. But what Danny says, swap Casemiro for Wesley at Flamengo, give him money. There you go. Yeah, I know we were linked to that Wesley kid. But we saw the return of questions from a boot. Today we're going to see the return of the scout reports. Now, this is a player that somebody mentioned on here a few weeks ago. He's been on my list for a while. I've been watching him for a little while now. But say hello to Lennon Miller. Very young, teenage Scottish midfielder, plays for Motherwell in the Scottish Premiership. Obviously, just 18. He will be 19, I think, in June, July. I can't remember off the top of my head. Very, very, very good, very, very young, promising young midfielder as well. 4 goals, 6 assists in all competitions this season. He is actually the 6th in the Scottish Premiership right now for assists, 11th for big chances created, which is high praise, 9th for overall chances created, 11th for expected assists, 22nd for interceptions per 90, and 7th for key passes per 90. Very, very good young midfielder. 9th top-rated player on FootMob, 12th top-rated player in that Premiership on SofaScore. He reminds me a little bit of like a young Ruben Neves, or maybe even a younger like Hayden Hackney. Could be ideal in the pivot, come in and rotate a little bit as he gets older. 3 times in the team of the week this season for the Scottish Premiership. But he's just, again, he's like Nippon, like even for a young age, he's got 24 starts this season. He's already captained Motherwell as a teenager. Even last year as a 17-year-old, Miller started 20 matches in the league, was in the team of the week once, and he finished last year 18th in that league for tackles per 90. Obviously, when you're younger and you're coming in, he went like full John McGinn, and just was getting stuck in. He started developing a little bit more to that passing range, his playmaking. He's actually played in higher, like the 10 spot once or twice as well. Maybe even more than that. But he does operate primarily in midfield. Very, very good, very, very promising young midfielder. Um, Danny says, yeah, you told him about me. Yeah, he's been on my list. I have if you guys could see the list of players I have on my scouting reports, it is extensive. But yes, I couldn't remember who mentioned it. I remember somebody mentioned it, and it reminded me, like, oh yeah, I forgot to check in on him. Then I just seen him against Celtic. Yeah, he's a very, very good. Obviously, he's got an excellent passing range. His playmaking, obviously, 6 assists so far in all competitions this season. He's versatile, can play a couple different positions in midfield. And he's physical. He gets stuck in. He's not afraid to get stuck in, and I do love that. As Danny says, Celtic are interested in him. Rangers are reportedly interested in him as well. Motherwell have also rejected 2 offers from Udinese as well. And for some reason, these clubs in Italy love these Scottish players. Brighton, I saw, were linked with him too, but then I saw reports that Brighton have a sister club in Belgium, Union St. Gilloise, who you guys remember. That's where Marmouche came from. But no, maybe it was Amora. I'm thinking of Amora. Sorry. So I saw reports that they could maybe send him over to their sister club, Union, from Motherwell to kind of act as a little bit of a feeder situation. Honestly, though, if Brighton are interested in, and if Brighton are interested in any young player, and that player is also on your list, go and spend a little bit more and get him before he goes to Brighton, because it would take roughly 10 million right now to get this deal over the line. I think that's what Motherwell are holding out for. If he goes to Brighton and he plays for Brighton, 2 years he's going to cost like 60, 70 million. Like, that's just how Brighton operate. They're very, 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 very good at that. Rob, big up, Rob. Good to see you, man. How are you doing today? Danny says him and Nippon 30, 35 mil would be great, man. I mean, probably even less than that, honestly. Probably get that for like 20, 25 altogether. But yeah, very good young midfielder. I just started another career mode because I get bored. FC 25 career mode is kind of like songs on the radio for me. I'll finish 1 or 2 seasons, then I'll get bored and start over again. But so last one I got Yashari and put Bruno in the 10, and this one I dropped Bruno in the 10. I got Rayon Cherki, put Ahmad on the right, and then I picked up Lennon Miller to kind of rotate in and out of that midfield. So yeah, he's a very good young midfielder. Rob says most of the players I know from FC25. Honestly, it's not the worst thing. It does help. But big up, man. Danny says still playing EA 24. I mean, it's all the same. It's just new uniforms. Honestly, though, I mean, the biggest thing about this year is that is the ability to play a 5v5 tournaments with the academy, which is really cool way to develop the academy players. And then the live start points are pretty cool. Because I start now and start a new season, but I'll start a new season from like St. Patrick's Day, and then I can just get my summer business, and then in a couple months I get my business done. So good for immersion. Danny says no Cheeto Obi or heaven for you. Yeah, that's right. You don't get those. You can try to make them and start a career, but that's about it. Usman, good to see you, Usman. I hope your family is doing well, my friend. It has been a minute. We just interjected with some transfer news to jump on a scout report. So, but big up, Usman. Good to see you again, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Hope the family is doing well. Hope everybody's sticking together and staying strong, man. So Lennon Miller, go check him out. Plays for Motherwell. He'll probably end up moving this summer. Whether he'll stay in Scotland or whether some of these other teams, maybe even in the Championship or something, who knows? Maybe if Hackney leaves Middlesbrough, Lennon Miller could easily come in and into Middlesbrough and start learning under Michael Carrick. If Chris Rigg, if Joe Bellingham maybe are gone from Sunderland, I could see him coming in and taking over in that Joe Bellingham role as well. Jury's still out as if he's ready for a Premier League start, but I think it's one of those things where if you look at his numbers, if you look at the optics, the performances and things, I think if he's on your list at all, you take a chance now before he does that. So, but you guys let me know what you think. Anyone who watches more Scottish League than me, let me know. I'm not going to pretend like I watch a ton of the Scottish League because I don't. I probably watch more of the Belgian League than the Scottish League. I watched a lot of the Scottish League when Ahmad was on loan at Rangers. Haven't watched a lot of it since then, though, unfortunately. I did watch a little bit more last year when Matty O'Reilly, when he jumped on my radar at Celtic, but he obviously is at Brighton now, so there you go. Moving on to some odds and ends. So reportedly, Maguire, Mainu, and Shaw are all back in training. Maguire and Mainu are back on grass now this week. Shaw's obviously been in and out of training. Amorim opted not to rush Shaw back into the matchday squad. Obviously, we know Shaw, you got to wrap him in cotton wool, drop him in for 5 minutes and then take him right back out. So Mason Mount was back on the bench against Leicester before the break, but he wasn't risked. Probably smart move. Just don't want to rush it because we know that Mount, again, like Shaw, it doesn't take much. The wind blows the wrong way. And it's like they're like getting sick, like getting a cold in like the 1700s. It's just like 1729 and someone next to you coughs. You're like, oh well, it was nice knowing you. Sorry. Um, I'll be honest. I've been waking up every day since Mason Mount was back in the matchday squad, kind of expecting to see a story about him suffering some sort of injury setback in training. I don't want that, but it's just we've seen it so many times that it's like it's more news when he doesn't get an injury in training these days. So Rob says, Mighty Wales playing tonight away to North Macedonia, unbeaten under Craig Bellamy. Nice. Yeah, I'll be honest. The most international football I've watched was actually just this morning was the first time. And it was only because England's under-18s, their match against Portugal under-18s was on YouTube. So I watched that, saw Harry Amos get an assist with a really, really good whipped in pass from that left back spot around the back of the defense to find who's that little Palace player? Jesse Derry, plays for Palace, carried it a couple yards and slotted it home. I'll tell you what, though, Portugal had this little 17-year-old bastard. His name's Flavio Conchalves. Whew, this kid looks really, really good. I think he's at Sporting Lisbon's academy too, this little kid. His footwork is on point. I need to go watch him a little bit more if I can. Obviously, it's hard. He's in the academy at Sporting. You're not going to be able to see him, but he was looking very, very, very good on the ball for Portuguese under-18s today. Who else is playing today? Oh, let's see. It's got to be pretty much wrapped up, right? Like, that's it. We've got some CONMEBOL qualifications today. Teams like Argentina, Brazil at 8. If anyone's going to watch that could be a good one. Who we got? Mighty Moldova versus Estonia. I sound so like mean when I say that. These are the kind of teams that Harry Kane stat pads against, and so I'm just not that interested, honestly. We got some African qualifications going on. Qatar, Kyrgyzstan. We got honestly nothing that I'm all that interested in. We got some under 21 friendlies going on tonight. So, I mean, no offense if you guys are in for it. I mean, and also maybe part of it is just being an American. It's not like we get too hyped for the U.S. men's national team. They don't tend to do very well. Obviously, they just got knocked out of the Nations League, I think, to Panama the other night. So, what are you going to do? Rob says, if Luke Shaw plays for us again, can we double it up as his testimonial? Oh, man. It's like Luke Shaw's on like leap year, like only every other year counts for him for his time at United because he's really missed half of his games that he's been here for. So, but yeah, so like I said, I watched about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so of England's under-18s playing Portugal's, and that's the extent of my international football watching activity this international break. So it is what it is. That is going to do it for me, though, you guys. Hit that like button if you haven't yet. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. Quick little news roundup today. Obviously, some goalkeeper talk, some Sancho talk. The good news, obviously, maybe Ahmad is set to come back a little earlier than we thought. We don't want to rush it, but we will see. And then we did a little scouting report on Lennon Miller at Motherwell, young 18-year-old Scottish midfielder. Looks very, very, very good. Good midfielder. I'm really happy. But hope you guys are enjoying the international break if that's your thing. Again, no judgment here. I don't really care. But we'll keep a lookout for any more news roundups if they pop up. Until then, we will preview. We don't play until Tuesday, which is insane. I think the academy and stuff play. So I'll have to check with my wife's schedule because we're doing some remodeling and whatnot. So don't know what my schedule is going to look like. But we have got, so the academy play Leeds on Friday. The under-18s host Sunderland on Saturday. The women play Sunday, nothing, and then we play Tuesday. Wow, the under-18s and the first team both play Tuesday. That could be crazy. So, but big up, Rob. Big up, Danny. Big up, Usman. Good to see everybody again. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and I will see you guys on the next one. Later.